Okay, let's start and go through the test here. I'll try to do this like I would do it in class, so that might be helpful. First question is, well, the first thing you have to remember is to have your book pulled up so that for things that you don't know, you can go to the book and search for the answers. I would go through the test and very quickly do the questions that you know, so that you're fairly certain that you have the majority of the test questions taken care of. Now, the next thing you have to worry about is how these are worded. So let's kind of look at some of these. It says, which of the following accurately describes the legal system sources for Privacy Act rights? I can't read this morning. If you remember, we talked about there really isn't much on privacy in the Constitution. So that gets marked out right away. The Fourth Amendment is about unreasonable search and seizure, but that only applies to government agencies or to government positions. And then there are others that talk about seizure and unreasonable search, but these two really aren't talking about privacy. If you look in the book for privacy rights, you'll find out there's one line that says laws have not caught up with technology involving privacy because of the technology issue. So just by process of elimination, okay, these two you know are incorrect, and that one leaves this one to be hopefully correct. Question 2. Which of the following supports employers' decisions to monitor randomly? Now, that's not watching you all the time, it's randomly. So again, by using process of elimination, how are each of these going to answer this question? Conflict of interest? Does that answer this question? Employees behave differently when they know they're being monitored, and that's the Hawthorne theory, and you learn that in business. Do you think it might be to the betterment of production if employees think they're being monitored, and do you think they may behave differently all the time if they don't know when? How about informed consent? Does that answer this question? Does informed consent answer that? I'm not sure. How about off-work acts greatly affect work performance? Well, you know, if I do a process of elimination, about the only one that really answers that is the employees behave differently. And that actually is a positive in some manners for productivity. So I'm going to go with that answer. If an employee questions the legitimacy of an employer accessing their personal information, the burden of proof falls upon who made the charge? That's your first question. Okay, who has to prove? The customer? Well, that one's out. The government? Yep, that one's out, right? So you're down between the employee and the employer. Usually, if somebody makes the charge, who has to prove that? I'll leave that one up to you. You can look that one up, and all you'll have to do is look up burden of proof, or anything about personal information, and that should pop up. But you've already eliminated this one and this one, so now you're to these two. And what chapter do you think that's in? It's going to be in the employment chapter. What has contributed to the increasing interest in privacy as an ethical issue? Well, just kind of look at that. Is it none of these? Is there an increasing number of lawsuits? Probably, I don't know. But is that increasing the ethical issue here? What's really caused this? Probably the most logical one is the rapid growth of technology. You see how this kind of works now? Which of the following is not a reason in support of employer monitoring employees? So which of those is not a reason, okay, that's going to support it? To ensure effective, productive performance. I'll let you kind of mull these over. To create a trusting, supportive environment for employees. Kind of a no-brainer here, isn't it? To guard against theft, it does that. To make sure your employees are in appropriate positions. I'm not sure about that one. There's a couple of here. To protect against legal liability. Well, we know that supports it. We know that supports it. And from a previous question, we know just by watching somebody, you increase their productivity. So you've got here, and you've got here. So which of these two don't match? I'll let you play with that one. Although some would argue this should only be done if it impacts performance, blank is a common form of monitoring because employers are legally responsible for work employees do on the job. What is that? Which one is that? Which one is kind of controversial? So which one would you pick? I would probably go with drug testing. These other three are a bit wild. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut. You've got one key issue regarding whether an employee's privacy is violated revolves around whether they were given notice that the monitoring might occur. This is called... Well, I would look up each one of these and find out what the answer, or what is the definition for each one of these. Probably, if you look at the next question, these are going to reappear in this test. So if you look up the 4 definitions here and figure out which one's correct, you're also going to know these 3. Which is then going to answer this question. Invasions into private life that were once considered unacceptable are becoming more acceptable. This is called... So again, we've got the same 4 possibilities as down here. Just look up the answers. Look up the... and you're probably going to find these in another couple of questions. All of the following are off-work ethical issues. So what does off-work mean? It means things that you're doing away from work that can be used to influence your job position or actually used and monitored by your employers. So what is an off-work activity? Activities that affect job performance, is that an off-work? Dating an office colleague, that's off-work, right? Health insurance because you smoke outside of work, that's off-work. And then working for a political party, that's off-work. So the only one, just again by process of elimination, is right here, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. Your supervisor expects you to respond to emails on your scheduled days off. This illustrates which of the following ethical issues related to privacy. Ooh, wow. I mean, what STEM, and we call these, which one answers that question? Probably, again, by process of elimination, you can figure it out. This is going between leisure and working time. Can they do that? I mean, is it allowable? I guess maybe according to your position in the company it might be. So I would try that one. It says most employee privacy issues reasonably center around. Wow. Where would you go with that one? Just think about it. What are most privacy issues you shoot around? What is the one thing you want to have happen at work? So you kind of look those up. My inclination would be going with this one. I'm not quite sure how the book lays it out, but I believe that would be the one I would go with. Policies against having workers from the same family working for the same firm or department are referred to as what? Again, you want to look up the definitions here. Is it discriminatory? I don't think so. Is it privacy invasion? It doesn't refer to any. Reciprocal obligation, there's that word again. Whatever the definition is, does it matter? Does it match this? And you might want to look this one up. Anti-nepotism. It's a new word. So we can figure that one out. Legislation being considered in Europe where companies must recycle all products that are introduced into the marketplace is called, what is that? Again, you look these up, those are there. I'm not sure about take back. You might want to check that one out. You might do a search on the internet and see what comes up. Not coming up very good as far as I'm concerned. Recycle. It does have, if you go back and start searching online, you'll probably find take back. Now, whether that is related to Europe or not is up for you to find out. If a business uses a supplier or a retailer that is unethical, what of these three, okay, implies that the business should be held responsible for the action of the supplier or retailer. So I look up the definition of this. What is that? What does that mean? So if you go and actually you can do a very quick search online, or you can go to your book and do it, and find out which one of those doctrines implies the business should be held responsible for that. This one we talked a little bit about in respondent superior means how can I explain that the best? Let's find a good explanation of that. Again, you can do a search online, or you can look in the book, but it literally means let the master answer. It states the employer is responsible for the actions of the employees, but you have to step back and think. Now, is this an employee relationship, employer-employee relationship in that? Again, this one you can look up in the book. So this one's going to be kind of a little bit of a contradiction, or might be between a hard place and a rock. So give that some thought if you get this question. There's a need and desire for some to buy children conceived by others. Which of the following best supports why this practice is considered unethical? You'll probably pull that one out pretty quick. It's rather obvious there. And you got to remember, you probably should look this one up just to make sure you're in the right ballpark. Here you go. This one looks at a situation where greater consumption can actually lead to unhappiness. Again, you've got these words. I would just get online or go to the book and look them up and see which one matches this the best. We know it's not this one. Probably not this one. So you're going between stealth marketing and affluenza. Which of the following standards for product safety and liability says that the producer are responsible for some levels of safety, even if it's not specifically promised. Again, I would look up all of these. What is a tort? A tort is where it's a civil action, right? Probably not that one. So it might eliminate all of these. So now you're between contractual or strict product liability. Besides ethical issues and the 4 Ps, another common ethical issue in marketing surrounds what? The marketing mix? Price differentiation? Nah. But we do talk an awful lot about vulnerable populations. So, again, process of elimination. Let's see. Promotion that misleads the consumers about the environmental benefits of a product is called. That one's going to jump out at you. Make sure you look that up. Again, look up, these definitions. Which of the following standards for product safety and liability says the producers are responsible for only things specifically promised? So, again, that's kind of the opposite of this one, isn't it? This one's implied, and this one is saying specifically promised. So if you can answer this one here, you will fairly well have answered this one here. The key issues for determining negligence are wow. Actually, this one's interesting because all of these terms are associated with negligence, but only one of them, and it's the very first step. There are 2 things about negligence: a reasonable person, and so that'll give you a hint on that one. What is undercover marketing? Why is it considered so effective? If you don't know somebody's marketing something to you, you don't have your defenses up, do you? So you are much more susceptible. And it is very creative, but I'm not sure that's why it's effective. And customers usually don't like it once they figure it out. So that kind of by process of elimination, you're going to go with that one. This is talking about a PC and a Windows operating system. Illustrates which of the following marketing ethical concerns. The fact that your PC requires the use of Windows operating system. Which one of those would you think? Whether or not the customer was able to purchase it cheaply, whether or not to purchase a product provides the actual benefits that it says it does. That's kind of outside the realm of ethics there. I mean, as far as whether the purchase of a good or service violates others' values in society. None of those really. The one here, and this was big with Internet Explorer, is whether you had a choice or not, right? And we always need to have a choice. So by process of elimination, very wordy, okay, but you would probably end up checking the first one. You have to really read these and eliminate. Marketing in ways that will assure both financial and ecological soundness and growth is called. Wow, we've been talking about that for a long time. I hope you come up with the right one on that one. Question 25 is a key element determining responsibility for some level of safety, even if it's not specifically promised. So what would that be? Liability is a key element determining responsibility? Or commission, omission, or negligence? Again, you already have the definitions of these 3. Could it be negligence is a key element determining the responsibility for some level of safety, even if it's not specifically promised? That one's going to be a good question. I'll let you struggle with that one. I will tell you right now it's not, well, maybe these two are on the outside possibility. These two are going to be your comparison ones. Which one would you choose on that one? Which of the following would be an ethical issue associated with the product aspect of marketing? So what that question's asking is, of these, which deals with the product and the ethics of marketing it? The quality and safety of the item sold, the responsibilities to the retail, the effect of pricing. Which would you choose there? Which really hits the product aspect? And that one will be fun to decipher, I think. What is the preferable standard for determining foreseeability of negligence? And again, I told you up in a further one that reasonable person comes into effect here. So make sure you read about negligence. It's just like one paragraph, 2 paragraphs in the book, but it does give you a good overview of this. What is contributing to the increasing demand for resources worldwide? Well, that one's a no-brainer for you there, right? What is meant by sustainability revolution? Now this one you need to look up because it's not as it appears. And that is actually stated in the book, I'll tell you that. So you can look up sustainability revolution. Which of the following is not a reason for supporting sustainability? Now remember the word not. So which one isn't true down here is what they're saying. So sustainability is risky long-term strategy. Is it risky? So remember the word not. In all of these, if it says not, you really need to double check on what they're trying to ask you. Couple more questions and then we'll give this up. Which of the following is not, here's another not, a principle for sustainable business? Which isn't a principle? Energy, resources, that's waste should be eliminated or not produced at a rate fast. So these three here are true. And over environmental sustainability, this one's suspect. That top one, read it carefully. It's saying which one of these statements aren't true when it's saying not here. Doing more with less or becoming more efficient in using natural resources is called, wow, you got some new words, biomimicry and eco-efficiency. Look up the definitions of those. These two I think you'll use later on, so you'll probably have to look up the definitions of those also. Professional and ethical obligations that should override personal interests are called, again you have some new words. This is in the corporate sector. So you have personal and ethical obligations should override personal interests are called what? It would be between conflict of interest and fiduciary duties. Look up those two. Question 34, we're looking at a key aspect. This one you need, this is that COSO. So look that up and see what that does. Which of the following is not a common gatekeeper. So which one of these aren't a common gatekeeper? And that's really very specific in the book. What determines if information is material on an insider claim? And we're at corporate again. So which would be immaterial here? Or material? How many people know the information? Whether the information has been made public yet, that could be it. Or whether it has financial impact. Probably materiality is going to be if the public has it yet or not. I would check out the other two, though. Which of the following is not a method for COSO? Again, that's this question up here. So if you probably get this question, this one's going to be much easier. Which of the following supports board members owning stock in a company? Again, we're at corporate USA and the corporation. This was kind of a common sense one. So I think we're going to call this one quits. You kind of get the gist. If it says not, it's you really double check. Most of these, once you look up the definitions in the upper part of the test, it's going to answer questions at the lower part, as you can tell. So I hope this has helped a little bit. I will send you this link if you aren't able to make it to class, okay? Thank you.